And Mark, just a reminder that we have a hard stop at 10, so we can start the fire meeting.
That should not be a problem, Kevin. I don't know if you just heard, we're not going to end up bringing any projects through this committee, so we should not be infringing on that meeting. And it looks like YouTube is streaming. Good there.
And Mark, just a reminder that
Can you hear me, Kevin?
Yes, I can hear you.
Will we have to jump on a different call, or can we just stay on this for the next one?
I wish I had planned that far ahead, but it'll be a different call.
Okay, thank you.
Morning, everybody. Let's just give it another minute or two to let everybody else log on. I know we had some more folks that were planning on joining us today, so let me give them another minute or two. Thanks. All right, good morning, everybody. I show 9:05, so we'll go ahead and get started with our meeting. Call to order. Start with a roll call. Rebecca Heising.
I'm here. Thank you.
Morning, Rebecca. Tommy Duke.
All right.
John Korn. Chief Galgus.
Chief Galgus here.
Morning, Chief. Fred Zabo.
We're here.
Morning, Fred. Mark Oka. Megan Koth. Tom Revelinsky.
Here.
Morning, Tom. Lieutenant Petrie.
Here.
Morning, Lieutenant. Laura Gold.
Yeah.
Morning, Laura. Serena Steele.
Serena's here.
All right. We have a quorum. Thank you all for being on the call this morning. Did everybody see or receive and have a chance to look at the minutes from our, I think it was December 17th meeting?
Is there anyone on the line for Peria?
And I'm just going to let the minutes know right now that Mark Oka just joined us. Good morning, Mark. I will entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
So move.
Nope, I'm muted.
So move. Fred Zabo.
Thank you, Fred. Can I get a second?
I will second the meeting minutes.
All right. I'll say any opposed. Okay. Minutes carried. Thank you. Minutes are approved. Thanks a lot. Okay. We don't have any public comments. We're going to start really with our first agenda item is this grants update. And just for the awareness of the group, before I turn it over to Leslie from our grants team, we originally expected that we were going to route a project through this committee, at least one project through this committee to try to pursue some of these reallocated grant funds. It doesn't seem that that'll be happening from our office at least, but Leslie will still provide an overview of sort of the grant situation in our county right now with the main CCESAB. And then I also asked Brian Kloss from our office to give kind of an update of what our emergency management request is going to be, but it's actually going to be routed through the fire subcommittee. So with that, Leslie, if you wouldn't mind giving sort of a broad overview of what we're looking at with the grants situation right now. And then after that, Brian, if you kind of give a general overview of what we're going to try to accomplish. Thank you.
All right, good morning. So we have money available due to projects coming in under budget, and we are finalizing that number of what's available, but we're thinking it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $368,000. We had some projects that were, when we went to the CSAB meeting and we presented the dollar amount, we still had some projects that we were awaiting what the bids were that were formal projects. So we're just working those numbers in so we know what's actually left once those bids are in. So we're letting everyone know that as far as requirements, they couldn't exceed $50,000. That's our threshold of informal versus formal bidding process, and the formal bidding process is lengthier, and so we just didn't feel we would have the time to accomplish any formal bids. And then it had to be for a good, such as equipment or supply, because if it was a service, then we would have to do a contract. And again, the process is a bit lengthier, and we didn't think we could accomplish it in the time period. And with everything that we do with grants, it must be available from multiple sources. So it can't be a sole source or state contract. And with these projects, we were looking for things that could be delivered quickly. So it couldn't be something that had a long lead time or build. And then with the projects, we were requesting specifications and including, and the point of that is to have the specifications from the get-go so there was no lag time and we could hit the ground. And then we were looking for documentation that would support the estimated costs that people are putting forward for their projects. And going forward in the future, that's something that's really important to us because as we can see, we have a lot of projects that have come in under budget. And while that seems like a great thing when you're utilize grant funds, we want to narrow in those estimates as much as possible, just so we can get as many projects assigned to the grant as possible from the get-go. So did I hit on everything, Mark, or was there anything else you wanted?
No, that works for me, Leslie, and I'll just ask the group if they have any questions about that. But this type of process, as most of you are aware, happens from time to time where we have extra funds available due to unspent or budget or projects that come in under budget. This is at this point, when this does occur, that's when we just implement our normal process to actually identify projects and request the funding through our committee, our subcommittees in the CCESAB. So that, was sort of the intention of this meeting today, the original intention of this meeting today, and that is also what the other subcommittees are doing or have done already. So does anybody have any questions about that process, or is there any project that, again, I just had a brief conversation with Shimon from Cleveland before this meeting started, where they had one project they ended up routing through the communications committee instead of ours. Are there any projects that were that somebody has a question about potentially using funds, these funds?
So this is Monica. Linda, thank you for the update. Mark, thanks for the update. Just one question, Fred. I thought, and I think it's more than a year ago, we voted to support some enhancements to the Emergency Operations Center. Did that pass or refresh my memory if anyone remembers that?
That's us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually had an upgrade to our video wall. It was just completed within the last couple of weeks, and you got to come by for a test drive. It really did a lot of enhancements in here, and we're very appreciative of getting that project through.
So awesome, good to hear. Is there any gaps we need to finish that through to make it even more superior?
No, I think we're good to go. I mean, we were just so pleased to get the changes. It really was problematic for us over the years. I mean, the system was dated, and getting these upgrades have really allowed us to accomplish all of our objectives.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mark and Fred. If there's no additional questions for Leslie, I did want just to take a few minutes to hear from Brian about a project that our office is trying to put together, but again, it's going to be routed through the fire subcommittee just because of the subject matter expertise that exists within that group. But if we do have input from this, from our group for the project, we can obviously listen to what Brian says and share it at this point too. So, Brian?
Copy. Thanks, Mark. Good morning, everybody. And Mark, to your point, we actually definitely looked at the county EOC as well as, is there any significant upgrades that we need to accomplish here? Luckily, over the last 5 years, we've already done all audio visual. We've added new monitors, projectors. Our computers are new. Our racks are good. Our redundancies are in. The only thing we could think of is, a $500,000 satellite. So I think we're good for now for sat phones. But we're pretty much shored that up. So we definitely looked at every options we could potentially use this funding for to upgrade our EOC as well. As Mark mentioned, the items we were thinking of running through EM, it just, as we built it out more, it's very fire and law enforcement centric, so it made sure. So Rescue Task Force, for those in the room that aren't too familiar with it, Rescue Task Force, RTF, is the merging of law enforcement and fire medic personnel during active shooter mass casualty incident. where fires and medics are in ballistic gear and they are moving with law enforcement under force protection rapidly into an active threat environment. So it's basically to triage patients while they're still not deemed a cold or clear zone. So unfortunately, over the last 20 years, we've learned a lot about our active shooter scenarios. And simply to save more lives, we need to get medics in there faster. So we've been gearing the last 2 years towards building this rescue task force training program. And there's some items still on the list that we need to purchase. One of them are going to be litters. Those are basically it's a stretcher. Instead of being a hardboard, it's fabric that has a bunch of handles on it. So that way they can actually tuck it behind their ballistic vest and you can carry multiple litters on you to carry patients. So that was one item. And then the other item we were going to go after was to build out one of our old trailers, the disaster trailers, retrofit it to actually be a special event trailer. So we're actually going to put ballistics, incident command boards, and then retrofit one of our John Deere Gators with it fits in the bed of it. It's basically a transport carrier, and you can carry 1 to 2 patients on it in the back of a Gator. So that is something we want to build out to actually have pre-staged at any home days, 4th of July fireworks, whatever. So a jurisdiction can request it. They can pick it up. And then that way they'll have a full mass casualty trailer on hand for their special event, and fire and police, they can use that John Deere as they're going through. So again, those were really specific to law enforcement and fire. So we felt it was just, we're going to go through those committees. So sorry that we're not passing any of those through this group. It just seemed more fitting over there. So with that, I will take any questions.
Hey, Brian, it's
Oh, go ahead, Leslie.
just want to make sure that as you're filling out your IJ, you don't mention home days in there. Maybe focus more on terrorism.
Copy.
And then Brian, as part of that retrofit, going to be, during the RNC, we had mass casualty go bags for penetrating wounds. So the cat tourniquets, combat gauze and all that. Is that going to be a consideration for the trailer?
So, some folks have been on this group a long time. We actually have had a mass casualty trailer, and Mark, I'm pretty sure you're aware or been a part of this. That we've had a trailer for at least 10 years now, and they've been rotating that stock through. And our goal is to better maintain that by actually supplying the new trailer with that. So we are using all of those MCATs, MFATs, ICATs. So we're going to have all of those different pieces of equipment. So yeah, it's going to be hemostatic dressing, CAP-T tourniquets, gauze, chest needles, needle bees. All of that will be actually staged in these kits in this new special event trailer.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody have any questions or input for Brian? Okay. And real quick, I see a phone number that ends in 013. Can that person just identify themselves to make sure that I've already captured who that is? Maybe someone doesn't know their number. Okay. We'll leave that where it lies for now. If there's no other discussion on the grant items, I thought we could use this as an opportunity like we normally do, just to sort of brief out, updates from all of our respective areas. And we can certainly start from emergency management with, I think a lot continues to happen and has happened since December 17th when we last convened this group. Again, I understand that a lot of you are on other, forums and committees that, there is regular interactions. But for the benefit of everybody, I kind of wanted to brief out on some of the emergency management updates out of the county side, and then, maybe let Fred and his team talk about some city emergency management updates, and then we can kind of go round robin too and see if anybody else has anything they'd like to share with the group and talk through. So first thing I just wanted to mention was, I know the last time we met, Kevin Fries from our office had talked about us sort of concluding the EMAP reaccreditation process for our office. That is the Emergency Management Accreditation Program. We are still actively involved in that process. We went through a supplemental period where we were afforded the opportunity to provide additional proofs of compliance. Those are currently still under review. I think EMAP is certainly not immune to the disruptions and inconveniences that COVID has presented everybody. So it's taken a little bit longer for us than expected to get through the process, but we are still interacting with EMAP and hopefully going to conclude that process soon and receive our full reaccreditation. Kevin, if you're listening, do you have anything to add about EMAP updates? And if not, we can just want to mention, and Brian, feel free to hop in here too, just COVID response operations. So we continue to look for ways that we can kind of scale back certain efforts and reintroduce some of our day-to-day projects and programs. So that, since the last meeting, we've continued operations at our PPE distribution site. We've continued supporting the Board of Health and their vaccine clinics, and we've continued operating our EOC at a partial activation, from Monday through Fridays. All those efforts, we've tried to, look for ways that we can kind of scale back and sustain them, but be, as strategic as possible about where we're devoting our time and energy. So EOC, I'll start with that. We are starting this week. We're still performing EOC operations, but a number of us are just sort of returning upstairs to our normal offices. Our administration folks that have been sitting in our EOC for past 18 months are actually returning to the county headquarters downtown. Brian, maybe this is where you can kind of hop in. We're planning some final big pushes of PPE the distro site, and then talking about time in the future when we can go down to 1 day a week there. Brian, do you want to add anything?
Just two more large scale pushes that we intend to distribute. One, we're going to hit the schools, and two, some county facilities. Good news is for everybody is that supply chain has been online for a while now with PPE, so we haven't seen the need like we did at the beginning. Of course, as time goes on, supply goes up, demand goes down. So we had to build a building, and so now we're sitting on a warehouse. And Marek and all of our hospital partners, thank you for taking this supply off of our hands so we can make sure it gets put to good use. We pushed out 16.5 million pieces of PPE out of our distribution site. So we had a drive-through system. We went from 5 days a week to now 2 days a week, all with 8 staff and 2 tow motors and a couple of pallet jacks. So it's been a wild ride, but we're on that decline, which is good. So we only have the schools left, and then after that we'll be 1 day a week. And then if anybody does have any issues or needs for PPE, we're still going to be available. We'll be able to push that out. Our biggest need is actually going to be to work with hopefully the hospital systems to figure out a rotation, a stock rotation, so that way this stuff doesn't expire. We want to make sure it gets used. We don't want to see it go to waste. So that's something. Luckily, the nearest thing on our list is still 5 years out, but we want to stay ahead of the game and make sure we can create that. So that's really the nutshell of PPE operations.
Thanks, Brian.
Hey, Brian, just a question for you. Is that expected to go for years to come, that we're going to maintain that supply?
That's correct, Chief. We will ensure a minimum cash on hand at all time. We don't want to go through this ever again. So we have a number in our head as far as what would supply the entire county for a 30-day rate, and that's the quantity we'll keep on hand. So it'll range from 300,000 N95s, 1 million surgical masks, 2 million gloves. So we're gonna keep a cash on hand in that building we built over in Newburgh Heights, and that will be our minimum cash at all times.
Thank you.
Yep.
In the last, we mentioned EOC, mentioned the distro site. the other element that we're supporting are the pods, the vaccine sites. And it's kind of a good segue for Serena Steele from our office, who's the biggest way we're supporting those, is through trying to coordinate volunteers to help staff them. And so Serena Steele from our office has been integral in doing that. So Serena, do you want to give a little update on that too?
Sure. Thanks, Mark. So our volunteer management process is still plugging along with the Board of Health. We support them, and we're switching back and forth right now from Tri-C West in Parma to the Word Church in Warrensville Heights. So, and occasional weekends at Mayfield. And I know Rebecca can speak a little bit more on this, but we're still coordinating the non-medical volunteers to support the Board of Health's pods. Any questions for me?
Well, I got you, Serena. Anything else out of co-ed?
So right now, we haven't had to use any of our co-ed organizations for anything in the county, but we are still accepting memberships from organizations that do want to be a part of it. So at this time, we are still active with co-ed, just in case there's anything else going on within the county that we need to utilize them for during an incident and an emergency.
Thanks. Then, while we're on the topic of COVID-19, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't go to our Board of Health partner on the call right now, Rebecca Heising. Can you give us just a general update of how your group's doing and any other notable items you want to share with us?
Sure, thanks, Mark. So we've administered quite a few vaccines now. We noticed a little bit of a dip in our registration.
You're pretty far away, Rebecca.
Yeah, you're a little muffled.
I'm gonna have to move my laptop. I crashed on my laptop on Friday, and so I'm improvising here. I don't know. Can you hear me better?
No.
Negative.
No. Okay. All right. Is that better?
There it is.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Good. That's why I don't have my camera on, because I'm embarrassed of my setup right now. So we noticed a bit of a dip in our numbers last week in the new appointments, first doses, and so what we're doing is we're actually in the process of switching over to the VMS system for our new dose appointments, new first dose appointments, and that's be starting this week. And we're hoping that maybe that'll give us a little boost in registration. We did see this week on Tuesday, tomorrow, we are at Tri-C West in the afternoon, and our appointment slots filled up for the afternoon session, close to 1,000 people. So we're happy to see that. So this week we're going to be pretty busy at Tri-C West. And then on Saturday, we'll be at Bruxville Broadview Heights High School. I guess the only other thing I'd mention, so on the volunteer side, the volunteers from the Medical Reserve Corps from Cuyahoga County have been just integral in the process, similar to, as Serena explained, the non-medical folks. And we basically, we can't do this without our volunteers. They're between half and 2/3 of our staff at every one of our clinics, and they do basically round out our entire vaccination team. So I just wanted to acknowledge them, even though there's really no folks on the call that are part of that group. This week is National Volunteer Week, and I'm hoping there'll be some acknowledgement and recognition of volunteers. Both Serena and I have been talking with our leadership to try and make that happen. So I think that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions? All right, thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca. How about we go to Cleveland real quick? You know, one of the things on my list that I wanted to touch on was the NFL draft. Fred, you know, if you want to give the group a brief update on the NFL draft planning, and then also if there's Cleveland-specific COVID items that you think are worth sharing, can you provide those too?
Okay, thank you. Are we muted?
No, we're unmuted.
Okay, can you hear me, Mark? Okay, good. Yeah, after all our upgrades, I guess this thing better work, huh? Just a couple of comments. One is that the EOC here in Cleveland is partnering with Health Department on Cleveland's vaccine distribution program. We actually have a few members of Cleveland Health Department embedded here in the EOC with us, and they're monitoring and administering the vaccine distribution in the city of Cleveland. We have daily calls with all the health officials in the city and basically map out the strategy for the week. Public safety is assisting in that effort, so we're monitoring that and supporting the health department on that effort. As far as activations for this year, I mean, all of us are waiting to see what the guidance will be for the remainder of the year concerning gatherings. Last year, we had 7 planned activations, and of course, all 7 of them were canceled because of health issues. We did have a few activations that were unplanned, but this year there's a total of 5 activations planned. And of course, the one that's the closest out is going to be the NFL draft. The NFL draft here in the city will be April 29, 30, and May 1st. The EOC in Cleveland will be activated from 1000 hours till midnight on those days. And basically we have 17 agencies that will be participating, and we're going to do that in a hybrid deployment. We'll have the EOC will be pretty much filled with representatives, and then there are going to be a number of remote individuals that will be participating as well. We're going to have police, fire, and EMS dispatchers here at the EOC. We've been preparing for this event along with many of you for many months, and we're getting very close to getting it started. We did have a guided discussion with an organization called the Naval Postgraduate School for Homeland Defense and Security, and basically that was last week. We had almost 50 agencies represented on that discussion, and it's one of those typical tabletops where everything on earth happens during the draft, weather event, demonstrations, you name it. You know, the state collapsed during that exercise, but it really helped us to get prepared for any potential incident that might happen and what the response would be. So I think that was extremely helpful. We had our planning meeting last Friday, and all of the agencies that will be participating in the activation were present and kind of walked through the logistics for the event. So there's been a lot of work involved with it. There's a number of subcommittees on the draft group. There's a drone subcommittee, and of course security and so forth. But we're looking forward to it. We feel like we're prepared. It's going to be an exciting time for Cleveland. It appears as though they're going to be permitting 14,000 people to come to each session. I think there's going to be 3 per day. And I think we'll get some final guidance from the state and the city prior to the event. But we're looking forward to it. We feel prepared, and that's pretty much everything we're doing at this point.
Thank you, Fred. You know, one thing I just wanted to mention is, you know, we have Lieutenant Petrie and Dave Diggins on the call talking about, you know, vaccine sites, Wolfstein Center, everything that we're hearing and seeing and involved in conversations on that seems to still be going very well. Any updates you guys want to provide on that front?
I'm sorry, Mark, before we move on to that, Fred, the 14,000 population increase, is that including news media? What's our expected population increase day to day?
Yeah, the 14,000 is basically the visitors that would come. That does not include the people working the media. That's a separate amount, but the most recent guidance that came from the state is a percentage of what the event would be. So they set it at 14,000. So that means 14,000 individuals will be able to be at the event, experience it, but that doesn't include the staff that's working at media and security individuals.
Thank you. And then one follow-on question. All of the events are in Cleveland proper, anything down in Canton or other jurisdictions?
No.
No, I'm not aware of any other events going on.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mark. I did hear you. I thought I heard something. I thought it was just feedback. Didn't mean to keep rambling on when you were trying to interject a question. Lieutenant Petrie, you have a little bit of update on the Wolstein Center?
Yeah, so what you're hearing is in fact true. Everything is running very well there. It's a well-oiled machine. They are hitting their 6,000 goal daily. They're on their, I think the last week of their second shot or the Pfizer shot, last week for the second shot for those that ended up getting the Pfizer shot when this started. As you know, the Johnson & Johnson, they were supposed to have that the last 2 weeks of this operation, but now instead they're extending the clinic to go through June, I think like June 7th, because they're going to do another round of the Pfizer one shot and then have those people come back for the second shot, and it'll take all the way to June 7th. So it's running well. They seem to be a little bit concerned about, the draft and then the possible, civil unrest due to the Chauvin trial. They have some concerns over that. So they're trying to prepare and set those thresholds of when that clinic would close down if something were to happen. So they're working through that right now as we speak. There's a tabletop exercise scheduled there this week regarding civil unrest. I don't know if anybody in this group has been invited to that. Brian, I don't know if you were invited to it, but yeah, I figured you were. So that's pretty much the update. Dave Diggins, I don't know if you have anything more. Maybe I missed anything.
No, spot on, Lieutenant. The only issue we've run into at this point, which I was surprised, the FEMA folks and the Ohio EMA folks were unable to procure sharps containers. So we were facing an imminent shutdown because we wouldn't have a place to put all the medical waste. I was able to procure some, but I may have to be reaching out for more with the extension happening. So if anybody knows of a supply of the 5-quart sharps containers, please let me know, at least so I've got a plan C at this point to try and get some. But everything's going great, and yeah, everything's good. And then we did open a student site also strictly for students, and that had to be shut down because that was the J&J vaccine. So that's to be determined.
Actually, Dave, that's opening back up on Wednesday.
Okay, there you go.
Get the memo.
Good news.
Yeah, we can talk about that, but that's resuming on Wednesday. They're going to be offering the Pfizer shot to students. So.
And Dave, the County Board of Health has really only had success with those sharps containers from Amazon at this point. So they have reverted to using Amazon.
Hey, yeah, okay, we got to do what we got to do, because I think I pretty much sold out every vendor that I knew, and I begged and pleaded, and I think we're out of magic tricks for that. So yeah, I'll check with Amazon. Thank you.
And Dave, they were able to get the really large ones too.
Okay, great.
We might be able to help a case, so just give me a call and I'll see what I can do.
I sure will. Yeah, I'll catch up with you offline. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. I think we've pretty well covered the COVID updates. Does anybody else, while we're still on announcements or other business, anybody else have anything they want to share with the group or talk through right now?
Well, let me capstone the COVID from the healthcare perspective. So the numbers are kind of climbing. They're not outrageous yet. So not quite sure if we're going to see a fourth wave or not from the B.1.1.7 variant, the British variant. Again, I'm encouraging everyone, if you have offered vaccine, take the vaccine. It is protective against the variants as well. So stop watching all the news is my recommendation for the doom scrolling amongst us. We're still continuing to, all hospitals are continuing to vaccinate everyone. It's open up to across the country, 16 and older for the Pfizer vaccine. I know J&J has paused. I would expect once they do some deep data analysis, that's going to get released with a couple more restrictions. But again, given millions of doses and 6 adverse reactions, certainly serious, but they're investigating that the way it should be. Metro is also partnering with FEMA to do some satellites in the suburbs. So we've done a couple of those kind of satellites off the Wolstein Center. And we've been able to get at least our first 2 rounds, about 65% minority groups, which is one of the priority targets that we're seeking here. So we continue to do those efforts as well as all the other hospitals and monitoring the situation. And thanks for the PPE stuff, and it's money well spent. After this, there's going to be something else. So it's just the nature of the beast. And as an aside, just so you guys know, we're also monitoring, we being the state and the country, Ebola patients that are traveling from endemic areas. I don't know, there's probably 50 in the state. None have had signs or symptoms, and the state plan for Ebola is in effect if we need to execute that.
Thank you, Mark.
Just a quick question for you. Are they talking anything about the vaccines for those 16 and younger? Have you heard any word?
You're muted, Mark.
The phrase of 20 and 21, you're on mute, so apologies, Chief. They're doing some studies that seem highly efficacious for that group. And I would imagine they're going to make some recommendations, hopefully sooner rather than later, about offering the vaccine. Obviously, it's going to be a volunteer basis for folks with parent and guardian permissions.
Okay. Thank you again. Any other updates from anyone or announcements? John Corn's always got something to say, so I'm going to give it a minute here.
I don't even know how to take that one. No, nothing of significance from our end. We just continue to maintain course and speed and coordinate with a number of the partners on this call to focus on enhancement and surveillance. And obviously that's the key contribution from our agency is the surveillance side of things right now. Outside of that, no, nothing of any major import to this group.
I put you on the spot, John. Thanks.
I had to scramble for my mute button, Mark.
Anything else? One last call, and then if not, this works out well because, like we're aware of, the fire guys have to use the Zoom information at 10. So, anything else? All right. With that, I can entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I make a motion.
I will second that.
Okay. Any opposition? No? All right. Motion carries. Thank you all very much for this quick meeting. It was great catching up with everybody. Take care. One thing that I'll just mention real quick is that I promised last meeting to send out a meeting schedule for the rest of the year. I still have not done that. I haven't forgotten about it though, so I will make it a point to do that. I promise. So look for that in the near future. But thank you again all for your time today. Take care. Stay safe. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Stay safe, everybody.
Thank you, Mark. Take care, everybody.